lovies, well, good afternoon, as the case may be. Whenever you're watching this, hello, I'm back. It's the middle of summer, so I'm trying to stay cool, so I'm wearing my bee vest and bee shirt. But in this video, I'm doing something more geared towards fall. I'm making myself a pair of pants. They're made out of cotton herringbone I got from Joann's. It's from their last year's platitude collection. And I am using my usual pants pattern, which is S8447. It's a simplicity reprint pattern geared towards the Rosie the Riveter type situation. It's high-waisted, buttons along one side, and I did add pockets. Since I now have a pockets pattern, I made myself 2 pockets. So I will show you how I do that in the video. And if you like it, okay, I hope you enjoy. So this is a really quick video. It's less than 15 minutes for the whole thing. So I'll try to be brief in my explanations because this will kind of go by quickly. So generally in my process of making anything, the first step is to cut out the pattern pieces. The second part of the step is to clip all the notches. Some people clip them outwards while they're cutting the pattern. I have found that it's generally easier for me to clip into the pattern for this. You can strengthen these points where you're going to be clipping with a little bit of scotch tape over that beforehand, or even afterwards if you feel like that specific part needs to be strengthened a little bit. You can also just trace out the whole piece onto something else and clip that way, but I find it easier for me to clip into the pattern to mark these notches. The second step is to mark all my darts, and if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I have a pin method for doing this. This is actually a vintage method where you take the pin and push it through the hole instead of the pencil to mark the hole, mark where the dart points are. I then take a pencil of some kind. For this fabric, I used a red chalk because it showed up. My white chalk wasn't showing up and my dark green wasn't showing up, so I also try to, as I use the pattern pieces, put them away so that I don't lose them. But here I am using the piece of red chalk pencil to mark the legs of the darts. The legs of the darts are just the 2 straight lines from one point to another, and they're called legs because if you put like a human body on top of it, they look like legs. I'll then take my pins and, matching up the 2 lines that I've drawn, pin the fabric together. And I like this method because I can see on both sides whether I've managed to match up the lines. And doing this allows me to get a better fit, and also allows me to get a better dart. I don't know if this method will work for you, but it definitely has improved my darts since I started to do it. I also feel less crazy doing it. My method for doing pockets is a quarter. I sew the pocket on one side of the leg and then I'll sew it on the other side of the leg to match. But I'll sew it on as a 1/4 of an inch. When I go to sew up the side seam, it's 5/8 of an inch. But at the top, I'll also go down a little bit at the 5/8 of an inch, and then back up so that it'll hold the 5/8 of an inch and hopefully hold the pocket in enough so that it doesn't show up. I'll also zigzag the pocket on to make sure that it just doesn't move. And this is very helpful for me because I don't have to worry about it too much. If it does end up fraying out, I can always cut new pattern pieces. So here I am sewing up the crotch of the pants. Kind of funny to say that, but that's what I'm doing. Matching up the notches that I've cut. I'm getting ready to sew it all up so that it sort of becomes a functional pair of pants. Well then, after I've sewn up the crotch, I'll sew up the side seam so that I've got what looks like a decent pair of pants. Then it's just a matter of attaching the waistband, and at this point I like to try on the pair of pants. I didn't film myself trying this on because it's not finished, and it's kind of uncomfortable for me to film something that isn't finished with me wearing it because I'm afraid that it'll fall down and expose me to the world. But I like to try on, at this point, I like to try on what I'm making so I can see how big the waistband needs to be and generally how well it's going. I'll then pin on the waistband, which you'll see in about 10 seconds. But I'll then pin on the waistband, sew it up, and then make sure I sew the sides of the waistband, and then flip it around and pin it and sew it by hand. One of the things I do need to get in the habit of is filming my handwork. At this point, it's rather difficult for me to film it because I tend to sit on the couch and listen to a book or watch another costuber do their work. So I usually just kind of forget to film it. But so yes, here I am again, as I mentioned before, just pinning on the waistband to make sure that it all lines up nicely. I think this pair of pants took me 2 days, maybe a day and a half with filming, so you could have a pair of pants in a day, depending on how familiar you are with this pattern. I do still want to try this pattern as a pair of overalls. I'm not sure how well it'd work, but I'd like to have a pair of overalls, and this is a nice pattern. So yeah, it's a very straightforward pattern. It's got 5 pieces: a front, a back, a waistband, a front placket, and a back placket. The placket just makes sure that you don't accidentally show your underwear while you're wearing it, because this does button up. Yes, I'm just adjusting the side seam because I added the pockets in, so I had to finagle with the pocket and the plackets. So here I'm just sewing up that seam, and usually at this point in the process I am just about done filming. I'm tired and cranky, and I have to continually stop and recharge my battery, so about this point I usually get a little lax with how I'm filming, how things line up. So yes, I'm just adding the waistband in, and then I will pin it, I will flip it, pin it, make sure everything lines up, and then I go through and hand sew down the placket, making sure, sew in the waistband, making sure only to catch the seam allowance and not the front of the front of the pants. However, with this herringbone, it is a kind of busy pattern, so even if I mess up a little bit, you can't really see it because there's just so much black and white going on that you can't really notice if I make a little bit of a mistake, which I think I probably did it a couple times. So here I am again, trimming off the excess. I will miter the corners, i.e. take my hemostats and push that corner out so that it forms a nice square instead of a trapezoidal shape. And then once that's done, I'll start pinning the waistband down so that it'll lay nicely while I'm sewing it. If you didn't mind top stitching, you probably could do this on the machine. However, I mind the top stitching, so. Also, at the end of this, you do need to hem the pants. This pattern is kind of weird because it has you turn up the pants on the outside as well. So originally you pin the hem 3 inches up, but then you turn it 2 inches out, form the cuff along the bottom. So really you only have an inch hem. However, if you are making this for like a teenage girl or a teenage boy who are getting ready to go through a growth spurt, that does give you a lot of length to work with, so you can let down the cuff as long as they don't gain width and only gain height. It's a great pattern. But yes, after I sew down the waistband, I'll use my buttonholer on my machine and sew in 3 holes in the front placket, and then I'll sew in the buttons, and then also sew in the hook and, well, the bar and hook for the top of the waistband. They recommend doing a button, however, I don't like how that looks. I like the smoothness on the waistband, especially since I like to tuck in my shirts. And using the bar helps me to achieve a smoother look. So yes, you can see the markings for where my buttonholes will go. And here are the finished pair of pants. I really hope you enjoyed watching my process. If you do have questions or comments, please feel free to leave those down below. Thanks for watching.